Ginger. This is Jennifer McGill.
Hi, how are you today?
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
I'm cold and rainy.
Oh no! Where are you?
I'm in Detroit, so
Oh my goodness,
yeah,
it's cold and rainy in Nashville too. How weird.
yeah. Nashville's gotten colder over the years. When I was younger, it was almost. I grew up in Texas. And it seemed like their weather was closer to ours, but yeah, Nashville gets quite a bit of snow and cold now. So
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm a Texas girl too. I'm from Denison. Little
no
town.
way. Do you know where Do you know where McKinney is?
I absolutely do.
Well, I didn't live in McKinney. I live in Farmersville, which was like east of that. If you went 380, about 10 miles east, like that's where I grew up.
Right there.
Yeah, it's like 2,000 people. So McKinney or Princeton or one of those people have heard of, but my particular town usually not. But Denison was like 75 the other way, right? I
think so.
Yeah, North McKinney.
Yeah. I never
By Sherman.
really drove it. Yeah, I never drove it because I was a little kid when I lived there. But yes, I mean, we went to McKinney a lot.
Oh, awesome. Well, you know, now I like you even better. I mean, I already read your info and I liked your music, so it was a good start. So
I love it.
You have such an interesting background, and so many things happened in such a short period of time at a young age. I have 19, 22, and 23-year-old kids, so I know like that those ages that you were going through what you were going through, good and bad. I can't imagine how you handled it. But you know, to preface everything, you were on the all new Mickey Mouse Club that was so popular because NSYNC got Justin Timberlake and JC out of it, and then there was Kerry Russell and Britney Spears, of course, Ryan Gosling, and one of my favorites, Christina Aguilera. But so, what was that like? How old were you when you went through that?
Oh, the Mickey Mouse Club hired me, I believe, when I was 10 years old.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, I was so little. And that was my first professional job. But funny enough, some of the other kids were seasoned, even as early as 12 and 13 at the same time. And so the first season aired when I was 11, I believe.
Wow.
And and the last season, the 7th season, was airing when I was 17. So it was all of my puberty, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the formative years.
For the world to see. Yes. So, yes. And then we call them, I call them the new batch, the little ones, like Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera and Ryan Gosling, they came on in season 6. So it was a time where I already felt very seasoned and sort of on top of my game professionally when these little guys entered, and they were, 3 or 4 years younger than me. And now look at them, of course, they're huge celebrities and talents, and but I've always seen them as huge talents in their own right, even before their name was super famous. We had a great time on that show. Just a bunch of talented kids, finding our niche and just celebrating what we love to do, which is to sing, dance, and act.
I would think that it either, going through those tough ages where your hormones basically take your brain hostage, like I would think that time period, between all of the, the singing, the dancing, that already makes, kids see stars. But, I can't imagine like, was it a great camaraderie or was it competitive? What was the environment like with all these kids?
Well, I would be lying if I said there wasn't some sort of competitive edge.
Right.
We were not taught to be that way. That was not the purpose of how we were all put together. But, in any kind of teen bubble like what we had, there arises the hot girl or the hot couple or the nerd, the problem kid. These things happen, the arguably best singer or the struggle to become the best singer. Who says that you're the best singer? What adult gives that crown away? These are things that are thought about and are undercurrents. But for the most part, we were actually celebrated for our uniqueness, and we were cast in certain roles based on our natural character. You know,
Yeah.
if you're naturally funny, you're going to get more skits. If you dance way more than you sing, you're going to be put everywhere there's dancing and movement. And I was brought in. I was sort of the, you know, one of the belting heroes. I was the one that if there was a high note to hit very strongly and aggressively, they would call me in to do it. And I was happy with that. I'm like, sure, I will go in and kill that note. No problem. I love doing it. It was my pleasure. And so, you know, you found your place. But personally, I can speak for myself and say, because I came from a competitive background in the pageant circuit, even though I had a really healthy family life and we were not a stage family, I did understand the essence of competition and winning something. And I did struggle with that a little bit. It translated into comparison. I compared myself, I compared my flaws to the strengths of other girls. And I really felt lacking privately all the time, even though I knew that I did a great job being a Mouseketeer. And so that was the sort of split personality that I dealt with on that show. And so if I was going through that, I know I can't be the only one.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is at the time I thought Christina Aguilera kind of was a backseat driver. Like I didn't think she was really a forefronter, you know. And then later on, I was like, wow, you know, you know, it's funny people don't even remember that Ryan Gosling was even on it. You know, it's just funny how you know the different talent though that it had to be intimidating. I mean, obviously looking back, you didn't know what kind of talent you were really dealing with, but you were really competing with stellar talent, regardless of how they were acting personally. Their talent was stellar, so I can imagine that, you know, you seeing it on a, you know, episode by episode basis. I can imagine. I mean, it's hard. You go through during that puberty stage. You go through body image issues. You go through, you know, how I look, hair wise, my height, whatever. I mean, you criticize your talent, you criticize everything anyway. But to then be, but you had there's such a like you were saying, you know, there are all these different types of, you know, funny, charming, silly, cutie, you know, like they had all these different personalities. So as I can see that that would be one of the hardest environments to grow up in at that age, you know.
Right, because sometimes you were the only one in your category. You know, we only had up to 20 kids at once on the show, give or take a few.
Right.
So you didn't necessarily have, like in a regular school environment, a clique of like-minded individuals. You know, if you were a drama geek, you might have been the only one. If you were an anarchist, you might have been the only one. You know,
right.
If you were, you know, if you were the hot girl, maybe people would just sort of put you in a box and say, okay, well, that's what you are. You know, those are just, it's sort of a hypothesis because, like you said, you know, I might not have realized it at the time what exactly was all going on around me. But I did know that there were classifications, and it was a small world to live in while the show was going on for me. But again, you know, like I remember Christina Aguilera. I remember those little kids at the time. Most of them fans of the show when they came on the show. So they really looked up to us at the time. But I remember even then, even if it didn't translate at the time in the solos that Christina received, she had a very unique voice even back then. And it has never, it's grown up, of course, now. But it was, the essence of it was always there, even at that young age of 13 and 14. So, and it does go to show you that a team, to help bring out the best of an artist, to really find songs that frame such a unique and amazing voice as hers, makes all the difference as you transition out of a group scenario and go solo. It really makes a difference.
Yeah, and then I grew up loving the show Felicity. So I was this immense Carrie Russell fan. I still am because she's still acting out like outside of this universe. I mean, she just seems like somebody you just want to be her best friend because she has this like sweetness to her. But then she'll be in like Mission Impossible playing, a CIA agent or something. I mean, so I can't, like I'm sure they didn't realize at the time either where things were going to go. My niece actually met Carrie Russell when she was doing the show at Orlando. She met her. They were doing some kind of, meet and greet kind of thing of some kind where she was there and, got a picture with her. So I was like, yes, like, just because it was so, like you don't think about that had to be, I think about just things I was a fan of at the times that you were on the show, things that formed my own mind as far as what I was watching and hearing music wise. And I'm just, I think it's like so fascinating, but it's also very scary. Because so many people struggled that had, childhood popularity that quick with so many different, incredibly talented people. And it's funny because my kids are at that age where they're all still trying to figure out what they want to do. Two's in college, one isn't. And I think it's important that no matter what, you follow God's leading because I know, they all took like immediate routes to, you know, honing their crafts in music or acting or whatever it was, but you went to college, right? And then when you graduated, you were already outdated. Like it goes that quickly,
You're right.
right? Like it didn't take long, and all of a sudden you're outdated because you didn't start, immediately as soon as you walked out the door, right?
Right. And it was a difference in goals. I didn't know that there was a race. I didn't know that the bubblegum pop movement was going to happen while I was in college, and that the new 20 was going to be the 15.
Right.
I didn't know that. No one could have predicted, and even just the styling, even just the fashion. It was just a time where I didn't really fit into the hyper trend of pop music when I was looking for a record deal after college, after I graduated. And, I was a fan more of the previous diva type model, Alanis Morissette, Whitney Houston, Celine Dion. I was into that. And it was just a different time for a while. And then the Kelly Clarkson, kind of came out. And now we have Adele. Now we have, more of a seasoned voice that's able to play. I mean, it's not new. It's been around for many years now, which I celebrate. I love it. But just that time when I was primed for really passing through those gates of the recording industry, I was just denied, and that's their right to do that. They are shopping for the product that they want to sell, and it wasn't me. And I can now understand that, from a completely impersonal place, like business is business. But at the time, because I really was walking around like an empty vessel, I wasn't really a whole person who understood my identity or my purpose that's beyond, the possible curse of fame. I felt like my purpose had ended. I felt like for the first time I had an identity crisis ever since I was little and knew that I was supposed to be on the stage and sing. At 21 was the first time I questioned,
Wow.
what am I supposed to do with my life? While most people are trying to figure that out that whole time.
Now, at what point did your mom pass away?
A few years after college.
Okay.
I was home in Orlando. I was in my parents' house again. And actually, when she passed away, I had just bought my first home. And I was really venturing out again, trying to do this adulting thing for real. I had only been in my place for maybe, less than 2 months. And she passed away on Father's Day. But it was just she and I. We were celebrating by ourselves. Just that's what scheduling, led us to. It's just the two of us in a restaurant. And when she passed away, of course it was a huge shock. The way that she was gone so suddenly, huge shock, of course, to our whole family, and all of her students and friends, etc. But what I realized quickly after that, those first few months, is that on top of looking to those old habits of, oh, let me call mom.
Yeah.
That I had to understand, okay, well, I can't call her anymore. On top of that, I also had to understand that my biggest cheerleader had left. She was the voice of reason.
I saw that. She wasn't like an estranged parent. She was somebody who was involved and very supportive in whatever you did.
Yes, she was my first voice teacher, and she went with me to the first performances. She was the reason why I loved singing so much and why I believe I was so good at it, even by the time that the Mickey Mouse Club found me. It's because of our work together.
Well, you live with your vocal coach. Yeah.
Right.
That's pretty awesome.
And it's what we love to do. So I did lose a huge anchor in my life. And what I realized over time, of course, that was all I could see. I could only see as far as my mother and the loss of her. But when I could look past that, I understood that I had put her on the pedestal that Jesus really belonged on, because I had to start processing that there is an eternal, deeper counselor and brother and friend that I can always go to. And at that time, when I had lost my mother, I felt very alone. I did not feel like I understood how to tap into my faith in an everyday, practical, renewing type of way. And that really sent me into a spiral of just being lost upon lost for a good many years.
And then at what point?
30.
I was going to say you went through some. Yeah, you were saying. I saw that you went through. By the time you were 30, you started going through some pretty tough times, right?
Right. That was actually, I would say, the peak of it. I had once the record deal season was over, right after graduation, when I was told at 21 that I was too old to be in this business in that capacity, I started downwards. That was the beginning of trying to create my own rock star world.
Yeah.
On the inside, even back in the Mickey Mouse Club days, I had felt less than or too much compared to other people, and it was because I was comparing myself to other people. But that extended to really disqualifying myself privately from living an honorable life that was good enough even outside the spotlight. So I would start, dating recreationally. I started drinking a little bit. I just started hanging out with rebellious people. And I wanted to live on the edge. I had never felt like I was one of the hot girls, and I never felt like I was taken not so seriously. Just, in a way, it's almost like I was trying to make myself user-friendly, because I had always been the smart, upstanding, responsible young girl. And that wasn't working for me. So that led up to, through my mother's death, and then continuing till when I was 30, I married a man because he asked. I was not in love, and he knew that. But I just felt like, okay, I have walked this path in recent years where I have broken so many hearts, including my own. I don't feel like I will ever truly love again or feel much again. This guy seems to think highly of me, and I like him a lot. I guess this is what you do. You just settle. You just get married, I guess. So that's what I did. At 30 years old, I gave up and I settled. And about 6 months into that marriage, I discovered that he was still legally married to his previous wife.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. And I did, honestly, even there, I wasn't throwing chairs. I wasn't super angry. I'm glad that he told me. I'm glad that he finally decided, to reveal that. That did take a lot of courage. But, I felt even then unsure of should I leave because of the promise that I made to God, even if he had sort of squelched a little bit on the timing of that, my ex-fiance, what did my words mean? And I just really felt led to just get on my knees and just confess everything and say, Lord, I have made all of these decisions really without your advice. If I had truly asked you before I said yes, I don't think I would be here. And I just asked you to rescue me. I said, I don't even care what that looks like. I don't care what job you put me in. I don't care where I go. As long as you're in the center of my life and I make decisions based on you from now on, that's what I want. So I basically rededicated myself to Jesus, and I allowed him to guide me over the next few years. I did get an annulment as soon as possible, and I was led back to Orlando, where I was able to really get back into the trenches, sort of like a spiritual boot camp with the Holy Land Experience in Orlando, which is owned by TBN, Trinity Broadcasting Network.
Right.
And so I learned how to be a part of spiritual warfare, how to pray for not just a peaceful purpose, but for a fighting stance type of purpose, for a warrior princess purpose in the name of Jesus. And that was something I had never tapped into before. I didn't know how to do that. And that began my adulting with God, how to practically apply what I know about God and what I believe and love about God into my everyday battles. And that's how I've come so far in the last 10 years, is because God has been in the center, and because I've kept him there. I've chosen to believe what he says about me versus anything else that comes my way that's negative or destructive or that doesn't agree with the word of God.
Well, and the thing is everything that is good comes from him, and everything else the enemy is doing directly or indirectly, through some person or through him, through his taunting, of you're not good enough, and he's constantly, especially if he knows he can see that you're living for God and you're going to try to do bigger things, he obviously wants to throw a wrench in that. So you have to only listen to, I love that Casting Crown song, Voice of Truth. You gotta listen to only that voice, because even the voices in your head, your mind becomes, like a total battlefield of, you know, your not only just your self-esteem, but decisions. So that's adulting. When you're when you're like every decision you make, you feel like, is this going to completely throw me off course or put me on the straight and narrow? What is, it's so hard to do, but I think as long as you're seeking God, even if you miss the mark a little bit, he'll make sure that you're blessed and that you eventually find your way back. And I love how you started out in Disney and ended up back at Disney Epcot Center, with the Holy Land experience, kind of almost like healing that whole experience and coming back to that incredible time. And then now you have in August, you unleashed a full length album, Unbreakable, which the music video is stellar, by the way.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. And if you had self-esteem issues at all before, let me tell you, you are gorgeous. Like, don't let anyone tell you different. You are so beautiful, and I love your styling. Like, you're a girl after my own heart. The way you styled, your hair, your clothes, the video. I mean, it was so incredible. And then
Thank you.
It caused me to start looking for everything Jennifer McGill. And
oh, that takes a minute, right?
and you know what? I absolutely love the album, but I will tell you, I went back and looked through some videos, and you sang Your Great Name and just blew my socks off. I mean, that is such a I love that song anyway, but I mean, it just sounded so amazing. And then you did some really risky stuff like Hello by Adele, and even some Michael Jackson. I was like, is this for real? Is she really doing like some Michael Jackson? And you did Human Nature, and that's a hard song, and I mean, you put a little twist on it with your own style, but I'm so, how excited are you now that you've got the full length album out and you're completely dug in the trenches now, for sure?
Oh, yes. I mean, I really do enjoy looking back into, really all of the seasons that you just mentioned. I love worshiping on the platform. I love doing covers. I love honoring songs that have spoken to me through the original artist and going back and just, celebrating that. And this album is so near and dear to my heart because I co-wrote the 10 original songs on it, and I really did delve into my life experience. I wanted to meet any potential listener where they were on their journey of faith. And I believe that this album really takes you step by step artistically through what a seeker can experience. Even someone who knows God and really wants to go further but just isn't there yet. Right. Someone who might be in a wonderful place with God and fighting a big battle right now with Him in the center, or someone who's just having a glorious day, everything's going pretty great, and you just want to celebrate Jesus. There's a song for everybody there, I think, and that is a huge labor of love, honestly, to sit in this album, in the making of this album, as long as we did, to get this effect. And we wrote it for everyone listening, and it's just such a wonderful, I want to say, accomplishment. I'm so proud of everybody and everything that went into this album. I just love it when like you were talking about the video. We had so much fun doing all of the aspects of making this album and making that video out in Nevada. And, basically all those clothes were mine. I just dressed myself. But, I love it that I didn't really have to change anything about myself in order to present this video. I mean, that's really who I am. That's how I dress. That's how I move. And I love representing strong women. And even if, someone doesn't look anything like me, I'm representing the spiritual strength of any woman that any woman can have, no matter how old you are, no matter what you look like, whatever your status is. Being unbreakable starts from the inside out. And that starts with God in the center, and if I can get that point across and be a beacon for that, wonderful. That's the point.
And people can go to jennifermcgill.com, but you can also go to unbreakableproject.com, which your press release really didn't talk about, but I went there, and it looks like you're doing some speaking. Is that correct? Do I have that right?
Oh, yes. Yes. And you can dabble a little bit on my website about that too. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. We like to drop that information wherever we can. But I do speak. I've been doing some conferences this year based on living the unbreakable life, based on my life, basically talking about my journey. And I get to sing my songs at these events. I have some more events coming up next year, and I'm finishing a book.
Oh, my goodness.
So all of it's tying together. All of it is about actually being able to step onto a platform or into a room of, interested people and say my message, and then meet them where they are and show people how to practically apply, some tactics of how to fight the good fight of faith, how to adult with God day to day, when there are challenges, because no one is exempt from challenges. How can you fight? How can you become fearless? No matter what type of life you live, no matter what your job is and what you're dealing with, there's an aspect of freedom from fear that God wants us to live in the here and now, not reserving that for heaven, but activating that now. And the key word is active.
Yeah.
We have to stand up and be a part of that spiritual growth. So I just can't wait to get more and more out there and speak about my message and my journey and what God's doing through all of this.
I like it because you are being informative instead of instructive. You're not speaking at them. You're talking with them. You're more conversationally saying, this is where I found my strength. This is where my journey led me. And here's the way. You may have a different story, but there's one way for the hope and to become unbreakable. I love that. It's very anthem like. I just, I think women, there's so many songs that become powerful in pop music that are really just anthems, that are just, people are feeling so powerless in this day and age. Not about being powerful in the world, but just powerful in their own lives. Like they're not present for their own life. They're not, you know, they're not being, like you were saying, they're not being active. They're not actively participating in their own either destruction or, success. Either way, it's they're really just stagnantly floating along, and it's God has so much bigger plans for us, and I'm sure you realize that He had a lot more plans for you than you could ever realize, when you were younger, and everything that He brought you through, it all has a purpose, and there are young girls out there that need to hear what you're saying, and I'm so glad that you're speaking, because that I would have suggested it had you already not had it, because you have a lot to say. I think your experience, as well as the lyrics and your songs, I think it all has a way of speaking to them, and for them to be, for you to take it further with speaking, I think it's incredible. And then what is there anything coming up next year? I mean, you said you're working on a book. Are you going to be touring for people that are interested in finding you on a tour date?
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you for all those wonderful, supportive things you just said. That's wonderful.
You're welcome.
Awesome. But yes, on my website, jennifermcgill.com, you will find an events page. So you can see my upcoming events. Also on Facebook, I try to make some fun calendar events, just to be more visual, but it's the same stuff. But yes, we're not quote unquote touring yet, but basically I just go out and visit place to place. And so we've confirmed something in Florida in January. We've confirmed something in February. Little by little, we'll start revealing where I'm going, so that everyone's aware. But you can always check into my website and find what is confirmed.
And you can also find out how to bring Jennifer to your city and bring
you can book me through my website.
Duh. Like bring her there, have her speak, have her sing, get the whole package.
Yes, I would love to meet you all.
Oh, I'm so honored to talk to you, because I have a mom like what I envision your mom was like. My mom, it seems like at some point I feel like telling my mom, why were you still supporting me through that? That was a ridiculous decision. Like it didn't lead to destruction or anything, but it was silly, And but even if it was silly, I knew she was like my cheerleader, and we just celebrated her 75th birthday, and it terrifies me. I'm like that. For me to not have that phone call, I'll obviously know that I'll see her again if, she passes away, but I can't imagine going through it at a younger age, and going through that you were already, going through other things, with at that point. So I'm glad you found your way back, and God led you back to this so that you can share your story and your testimony. And I'm glad that Fox News Channel was, spotlighted your interview about your faith and premiered your video, because, it was a long time coming, in my opinion. After everything you've been through, I'm very glad that they gave you that exposure. And we'll share our interview with everyone. We'll put up on YouTube, and I'm just really excited to talk to you. And the album is amazing, and I will do what I can to get you up here to Detroit, because I would love to see you. I'd love to hear you speak, and especially to some young girls. It would be amazing to have you up here, and it's just been an absolute pleasure talking to you. And I think you and I would be great friends if we lived next to each other, because like I said, I love your styling. I love your voice. It's funny because your voice can do everything from that kind of smoky Adele sound to that more Sandy Patty, or belting, kind of stuff. And I love that. I love that you can do all that. You can lead worship, and then you can turn around and do a really cool pop song like Unbreakable. And I'm just, I guess I'm out of words to describe it, but it's, really been incredible. I was excited when I got your press release. I was excited to see that you were doing interviews, and I jumped on it as soon as it came to me. So I'm glad to talk to you.
It.
Oh, well,
Thank you, Ginger. Thank you.
I adore you. I was called Jennifer all the time growing up because of my name being Ginger. So,
right. So close. Like if we yell both of our names across the parking lot, they sound the same.
We'd both turn around. Yeah. If
Yeah,
anyone
yeah,
says Jennifer and like Walmart or something, I turn
yes.
around because I figure that, and people call me that all the time, so I turn around all the time for that. So, well, I feel very a kindred spirit with you. I think you're amazing, and I'm so happy for you, and I pray you have an incredible Thanksgiving and holiday and New Year, and we will catch you after the New Year. And I'm excited about your book too. Now, do you have a release date for that, or is it still?
Oh, yes. We do not have a release date. I just had a great meeting about it yesterday. And so, I mean, it'll be released next year, but yeah, we haven't, it's kind of like one of those things like we know it's happening, but we don't have any of the confirmations yet.
Oh, well, that's
But yeah,
awesome.
but it's close. It's close. I'm really excited about it. That'll be a completely new adventure for me. I've never written anything close to a book before. So that's going to be super exciting to unpack and talk about.
Well,
People can get a hold of it.
We're like sisters in another life. This year, I was able to do some contributing writing on a film, and then I'm doing some articles for a publication called Together LA, and I am currently writing a book. So
I love
I'm
it.
like, oh man, she's just checking all the boxes. Yep, she's got that BFF all the way down. Well, again, you got my number, so this is
Yes.
my personal number. So call me anytime, text me, let me know if you need anything, you need help finding some exposure in a certain area, or connect with a radio station if you're doing an event somewhere and you want them to be involved. Just let me know how else I can help you get your ministry further out there to everyone.
Thank you, Jennifer. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.